Hello, gorgeous. So welcome in. Welcome in. For those of you who are new here, I'm Eileen, and I love to talk about growth in all areas of life, but specifically I currently love to talk about growth within careers and the job search from a more feminine and spiritual perspective. Because for as long as I can remember, I've been a pretty deep and spiritual person. And I'm not just talking religion here, I'm talking going within like the personal development space and, of course, connection to a higher power. But it takes the form of journaling and really working, doing a lot of inner work and things of that nature. So careers just ties in very well with my desire for growth. And I like to do it in a very easeful way that's very connected to my mission in life, my purpose in life. So I want to chat a little bit about that today. Over the next couple of weeks, I will be sharing my career story with you. And today I want to start by sharing the story of why I took my very first job out of college back in 2016, which feels like forever ago now, but it wasn't that long ago. Out of all of the companies in the world, the thousands, probably millions of companies that exist out there, why did I decide to work for Google specifically? So today I want to shed light on the perspective of being super intentional about the places that you decide to work. I personally like to view my life and the time I spend in my life, the things I spend my time on, as me pouring my life force energy into that thing. So, whatever I'm spending my time on, whether that's a person, an activity, going to an event, a hobby, or working at a particular company, that's me pouring my life force energy into that thing. And so, intentionality is really important to me. So, that is the perspective that I will be sharing today. So, I think about myself back in college and where I was then. Um, I think about what I just said right now, right? Like choosing where you work based on this vision that you have for your life, based on the mission that you feel you were placed on this earth for, based on a purpose that that you feel you are fulfilling in this life. But what happens when you are maybe at the beginning stages of your career or at the beginning stages of viewing your life from the perspective of purpose, mission, and what you were brought to this earth for? Well, in that case, like your vision and that mission, that purpose is not very clear yet. So it's really hard to make decisions about something from the perspective of something that you are not yet clear about. So whether that's like the vision or the values that you live by. So how do you make a decision if you're not very clear on what your take on life is? And that's another thought I would love to chat a little bit about. Everyone is different, everyone has different values, they have different priorities. So, of course, I'm going to be sharing my story from the perspective of my values and my priorities, which are, for the most part, growth, as I mentioned earlier, adventure, and kindness. These are the three values that I have lived my life by for the past 10, 15 years that I can. Um, that I've been observing myself and digging deep and doing that journaling inner work. So, those are the values that I chose to make decisions by. But when I took this first job out of college, I had no idea what those values were, right? So I have done a lot of work over the past 5, 6 years to figure out who I am. But how did I make a decision right out of college to go to this job? It was because I was connected to my intuition, even though I wasn't very clear about where it was all leading me or what those values were or what my larger vision was. That came later. So let's start from the beginning. So it started in college. Let's not start from the very beginning because Lord knows that I've had quite the journey before I even graduated college. But let's start from the point in college where I started thinking about full time jobs. At that time, I was sifting through the various job opportunities that exist out there. And give me 1 second. Okay, let's do this. from the various job opportunities that exist out there. I was in college, they had career fairs. I was part of multiple organizations from Alpha to T. Howard, all of these organizations that were connecting me to companies beyond the four walls of my college, Baruch College in New York City. And went to all of these events, went from booth to booth, company to company, asking questions, being, the eager young student, trying to figure out her path in life. And for some reason, no company I came across excited me. None of the companies I spoke to excited me. Of course, there were a few here or there that piqued my curiosity. There were a few here or there that really drew me in. It pulled me towards their table or whatever it was at a career fair, or like maybe their website online, their job page, um, or their job description for an internship. And I sifted through many, many, many possibilities, job opportunities, um, applied many places, got rejected from many places, was making very little traction, all of these things. I had internships, don't get me wrong. Like I was making progress, but I was still super scattered, lost, unsure, unclear about where I was going, where I was headed. And I went at one point to this national conference, Alpha's national conference, which I'm more than happy to share about that organization at a later point in time. But I went to their national conference. People would ask, "Yeah, so what are your career goals? Where are you going in life?" And I had no idea. So after that convention was over, I really sat with myself and started thinking about it. And to be honest, I was like, "No, I can't think of any job that excites me, any company that excites me." And some way, somehow, Google popped into my mind. I don't know if it was that internship movie that they came out with. I don't know if it was that. I don't know if it was, I don't know, like searching online and seeing different tech companies and saying, well, Facebook, well, I wouldn't want necessarily to work there, maybe here, maybe there. Google came to mind. And after that, it was like, that's it. That's where I want to work after college. This is where I want to work. I want to work at Google. It was just this like spark of excitement. I felt the excitement. And that excitement really led to me deciding that this is where I wanted to go. I had no idea how that would come to be, no idea how I would make that happen, no idea what the path would look like, what was required, what the expectations were. I had no idea what I was getting myself into. But it was exciting and it was a journey. So I decided to take the journey. It was like life was pulling me and inviting me to take this adventure, without real a clear itinerary of what the stops were on that trip. Anyways, so Google became my North Star, so to speak. And it really started with, like I mentioned, joining organizations. I continued to join organizations, but now I joined organizations from the perspective of which of these organizations would get me one step closer to Google. And I don't advise everyone go down the path of choosing a particular company to, laser focus on, because some of us need to be more specific in the way we manifest things. Some of us need to be a little bit more broad, just the general direction in the way we manifest things in our lives. But I am personally of the type, at least I was at that point in time, of the type where I needed to be very clear, very intentional, and very specific about what I wanted in order to accomplish it. So I started searching for organizations that would connect me to Google. There were multiple. One of the main ones that I absolutely adore and loved while I was in college was MLT, Management Leadership for Tomorrow. They're a diversity organization. I joined their undergrad program, and they were connected to Google. So I was just like, oh, I think, of course, like it's a very valuable organization and they helped me tremendously. But at that point in time, I had no clue what I was getting. I had no clue. I just saw the Google brand name on their website and I was just like, let's do it. I don't know what it's going to be all about, but let's do it. And people started really talking to me about that organization and told me, "Hey, Eileen, like this is a wonderful organization regardless of Google or not." So I joined it. They absolutely did the job. And then I also started looking at internships that would give me the skill sets that I was noticing were required in order for um, that were required in order for me to get the skills to get the job at Google. So I started taking internships that would get me there. So I ended up getting a internship at Viacom. I was in marketing at this point in time. So I started looking for either branding internships, which is what the marketing internship was within Viacom. And from there, I looked for more um, internships. I ended up getting one at a company called Matomi right after. And Matomi really kind of geared me in the direction of a little bit more of the tech side of things, where was working with like links in different articles and advertisers and publishers and connecting the two and seeing, like where articles were linking to and that whole world of things. So that was another one that would help me get closer to the job of getting the offer for Google. And I also started meeting people. Everyone that I met that either knew someone that worked there or that worked there, I started asking them questions, just like, oh, so how did you make your path towards there, or what did your friend do? And these questions were giving me little nuggets here and there of was what the path might look like, what the possibilities were, what the requirements were, how I could slowly but surely build my resume, quote unquote, my resume. What I meant is like my skill set, my identity. How can I embody the skill sets that were necessary in order to have this job? And of course, it wasn't super clear what I was doing at the time. It's very clear to me looking back now. Um, but I just know for sure that being able to follow that intuition and having a clear vision was what got me there. I learned about the APMM program from a wonderful friend of mine, and that program is the Associate Product Marketing Manager program. It's a wonderful program within the Google walls. And after I found that program and knew that it existed, it was like, that is it. Like, whatever is on that job description, I'm completely gearing my resume to target this particular job. I use that same resume to apply to other internships, other jobs, and it worked for all those other jobs as well because it was very specific to marketing for this very particular job that had very clear descriptions of what they wanted. They wanted someone who could focus on data, they wanted people who were strategic, creative, and leaders. So those four skill sets were what I focused on my resume on entirely. So data driven, strategic, creative, leadership. And of course, they want someone who is interested in the tech company, I mean, the tech world. So that's what I decided to also sprinkle into my resume here and there and sprinkle into my conversations and start learning about more deeply. So that was great. Lo and behold, through this organization, MLT, and ended up getting about 4 or 5 internship interviews set up with multiple companies: Google, LinkedIn, Intuit, and Disney. So 4 companies. I ended up getting rejected from each of those 4 companies. Rejected, like straight rejected from all of them, including Google. So I was heartbroken to say the least and embarrassed. Like I literally got rejected from every internship interview I had set up for like that month. And okay, so I will share a story more specifically about this rejection that happened and how I ended up getting through that. Um, but I'll continue the story. I ended up continuing to apply. I thought to myself, you know what, maybe this, I don't maybe I don't belong in the corporate world. Let me put together a blog of sorts. And that's when I started my first blog, where I started creating articles and just writing things and connecting with people about how content creation works. Um, so that's, here we are today. It really helped all in all. But um, that was part of the journey too. I still continued to look for internships. I ended up connecting with someone within JP Morgan Chase, and he was a recruiter hiring for a marketing internship within JPMC. So I reached out to him, and he set me up with interviews for JP Morgan Chase, and I ended up getting the internship offer. I ended up getting an offer for Pandora in the summer. So I had those two internship offers. I ended up deciding to go with JPMC because it was a larger company who I believe would have given me more of what I needed internally. They had a lot of support because I knew a lot of people working at that company or interning at the company. They were in New York City. Pandora, I would have had to travel all the way to Oakland. They were paying me more. um, so if I would have gone to Oakland, like I would have had to get an apartment with less pay anyway. Although they were a tech company in the tech space, pretty much pretty close to SF, where a lot of the other tech companies were. Um, and so it would have led me closer to Google, but it wouldn't have done it in a way that felt entirely secure to me. So JPMC was still giving me what I needed. And let's be clear, at this point, I had no idea whether I would ever get the job offer for Google. So all of this was up in the air. I had no idea if that vision would ever come to be. And if you have any questions, of course, up until as I go through this story, feel free to drop them in the comments. Feel free to share any questions you have or your career journey with me. I would love to hear. Um, so yes, so I ended up taking the internship at JP Morgan Chase, worked there that summer, and let's be honest, I wasn't like the happiest person interning there. I mean, it's a bank. I'm in the marketing space, so I'm doing marketing for a bank, and one of the most exciting parts of JPMC from a marketing perspective is the work that they do with some of their larger credit cards like Reserve and all of the wonderful experiences that they provide for people who who have their credit cards, right? So I was not working on those marketing campaigns. Um, and so I knew while I was interning there that it still wasn't exactly where I wanted to be. So Google kept popping up into my mind. And at that point, I remember looking back to when I got rejected from the Google internship that I told myself, I don't think I want to be in the corporate world. Like, what's going on? Let's just do this blog. But then it clicked in my mind, wait, one of the things that Google also was looking for in the APMM program was entrepreneurial skills. And so I realized that I could also leverage my blog in the interviews for Google. So what I ended up doing was redeciding to apply for Google. And obviously this time it wasn't about internships, it was me going for their full-time roles, the APMM program. Um, which is a little bit scarier, right? Because it's one thing to get an internship at a company, right? Where you think the bar is lower, but and I got rejected for that internship, but it's another thing to get a full-time offer for a company. Like they're literally investing in you for full-time at a company. So the bar I felt would be a lot higher. But this time I had more experience under my belt. I already knew the questions they asked me for the internship. I already gained more experience working at JPMC. And so I was pretty confident that I could make it happen. One second. Okay, I'm back. So I was pretty confident that I could make it happen. So while I was at JPMC, I just made sure to continuously update my resume so that it fits what they were looking for, the APMM program. And lo and behold, went through the interview process again with Google. This time I said, forget all the other companies I have interviews prepared for. I am fully focusing on Google. And like I mentioned earlier, I don't recommend that everybody just pinpoint only one company they want to work for and go all in on that, because not everyone manifests in life in the same exact way. Some of us need to go more broad. Some of us need to be more pointed and specific. That was the particular path I needed to take. So I stopped preparing for all the other companies I had interviews set up with and fully focused on Google. Um, and that really helped me hone in on the stories that I wanted to share with them. So went through the process. While I was going through the interview process, I got an offer from JPMC extended to me for their full-time marketing position. Of course, as I mentioned, I wasn't fully working on the most exciting part of their marketing org. And so I was still going for that APMM program with Google. Lo and behold, a couple of weeks later, I ended up getting the offer for Google APMM, the program I wanted to work for, Associate Product Marketing Manager. And I just already knew the decision was I wanted to take it. So, what is it that I'm really trying to say in this story? What I'm really trying to get the message I'm trying to get across is that sometimes we don't know what our lifelong vision is. Sometimes we don't know what our huge goal is. Sometimes we are too early in our career where we haven't really discovered where our path is headed, where it's taking us. And so, what I ended up doing in that point in time when I decided, like none of these companies excite me, the only company that seems exciting to me was Google, was I was following my curiosity. I was following the excitement. I was following the idea that would really wake me up and get me up in the morning and get me excited to work on my resume, the idea that would get me excited to go for those interviews, to prepare for interviews. Because let's be honest, the job search many times, especially if you're going for tech companies, it is not easy. It's not super easy because it's some of these companies are highly selective and it's also very competitive, especially like, for example, I mentioned the APMM program. From what I was hearing at that time, this was like 2016, 2015, 2016. So I don't know what it's like now, but at that point in time, it was still a pretty selective, pretty competitive program. And so you need that motivation, you need that excitement. So that's what I was doing. I was following my curiosity, I was following my excitement. And it took a lot of persistence. As I mentioned, I got rejected from the Google internship for the APMM program, but that didn't stop me. I knew that we needed to continue forward. So I persisted nevertheless, right? So the other thought that when I think about what exactly it was doing for me, right? Because it's one thing for you to go to a company and you're bringing value to a company, but it's like looking at it from the reverse perspective is what value is that company bringing to you? I thought about the return of on my investment of my time, right? Of course, one part of the return on investment is the salary, how much you're getting paid, the stock options that they give you, or the stock grants that they give you, 401k contributions, the benefits they give you, whether that's like healthcare benefits or on on their campus or in their office. So that's another thing, right? That's one thing that they're investing in you in that sense, right? But to me, the monetary investment, return on investment is not exactly that. It's not exactly everything. To me, it's like, okay, if I'm pouring my life and energy and my time into a place, what am I getting out of it? So what was I getting out of it? What was the return on investment? What did I envision my return on investment to be for choosing to go down this path of taking the APMM job? It started with adventure because I was going to have to move to San Francisco. Like they weren't offering me the job in New York or something like that. They pretty much the only option was to go to San Francisco. And so that was the first thing. Adventure is one of my top values, and I didn't realize that at the time. But adventure excited me. The thought of moving excited me. The thought of going to a new city excited me. I already knew people who had done that previously. So all of that was exciting for me. I also thought about the tech industry. The tech industry is an industry that's ever growing. It's at the not always. Not every tech company is at the cutting edge of society of what's happening, but I knew from the perspective of where I was at that point in time in New York City, working in a business school, um, working interning at a bank, I wasn't necessarily getting as close as possible to cutting edge where life is headed in the tech space. And so, of course, moving to San Francisco would get me so much closer to that, especially taking a job at Google, um, given that they are one of the big tech giants at that time. And lo and behold, it got me much closer to where I wanted, to the exciting space in the tech industry. Of course, Google has a great brand name, so I always thought that that would really be helpful to me as well. It was maybe it wasn't a primary motivator. It was maybe like fifth on the list, but it was still pretty important. I was a huge fan of Google products. I love Google Drive. Um, out of all products, I know, so boring. I love Google Drive so much. YouTube, of course, we all love YouTube. So many products, and I know Google doesn't have the best reputation right now, so I want to be conscious of that given like everything that's happening. But this is my story. This is where it all began for me. This is really what kicked off my journey, my adventure in my career, and it's what led me to be here sharing this story with you. um, and I already had a lot of, like I mentioned, people in the company. I had mentors, I had friends, others that I knew within the company. So it just made sense. Overall, I felt like it was taking me in the right direction, the direction I wanted to go in. So those were a lot of the things that really helped me make the decision. It's what really helped me decide on that direction. All of this is what really helped me move forward with passion, move forward with excitement, move forward with tenacity, with persistence, because I had a goal, I had a vision, and I was not going to stop until that goal and that vision was fulfilled, completely fulfilled. And it got me where I wanted to be, right? I ended up getting accepting the offer to work for Google. And about 4 or 5, 6 months later, I was shipped off to San Francisco to be in a space that was completely surrounded by tech companies, techies left and right and center. um, so that is my story. I wanted to start by sharing the story of how I ended up getting the job, and then talk to you a little bit about the mindset that really went into making the decision. I currently have a very special program that I am re-releasing, and I specifically want to work with hardworking, heart-centered women who either work in the tech space or want to work in the tech industry. And I want to work with women who are currently feeling like I was feeling in the beginning, super lost or scattered or unclear about where they're going in their career. And I would love to help them get super clear on their vision and build great confidence using a structure that helps them align with their own North Star. Because let's be clear here, Google was my North Star at that point in time. It doesn't have to be yours. You don't have to even want to work at a large tech company. So, what I really want to do, my mission right now, is to help women figure out what their North Star is, what their career journey can look like, their career desires, their career vision. Where do they want to be? How is that connected to the purpose of their lives, what they were placed on this earth to fulfill? So I want to help women really build a career that leads them closer to their heart, to really just lead a heart led career path. So that is something that is my little baby right now. I've been working on it for a while, and I'm sharing it with you guys. Feel free to send me a direct message if you want more details about this program to see if it's a fit for both of us, because I not only want to make sure that working with you is a good fit for the program, but also that I am a good fit for you and where you want to go in your career. So feel free to send me a DM, a direct message, or email me, and I'll share the details of that with you. So that is it. That is it, gorgeous. Thank you so much for tuning in. Focus on your vision first. And if you don't know what that vision is, that is okay. Follow the excitement, follow your curiosity, take the steps that are necessary to really get clear on something, to give yourself some form of direction, because that direction is what's going to get you excited. That direction is what's going to get you motivated, wake up in the morning in order to put together that resume, in order to prepare those interview stories, because we know it's not easy. And sometimes it can be downright miserable if we're very unsure, unclear, or scattered about how we go about doing this. And the more support you can have, the better. I know I personally had a ton of support from many people. I think I once put together a list of everyone I spoke to that helped me figure out how to get this first job, my first job out of college, how to get that job at Google within the APMM program. And the list was like, I don't know, 9 people long. And these were only the people who specifically helped me with Google, but it does not count the dozens of people who helped me overall in my career. So I've been gathering information for years upon years upon years. I got my very first internship in high school because it was required for us to have an internship in order to graduate. So I thank Miss Corrali, my principal at that time for my high school, for making that a requirement, or whoever the staff member was who decided to make that a requirement, because it led to me really learning about the job search from my teenage years. And it's been a wild journey. So, anyways, my love, thank you for joining. Stay tuned. Next week, I'm going to share the story about why I decided to quit Google, why I decided that it was no longer aligned with my career vision, my career journey. So, I will tell that story. It's a beautiful story, it's a beautiful journey. It is still only part of the beginning of the journey. So you would think like, oh my God, you got to Google, or, you got to the company you wanted to work for. It was essentially my dream company. Wouldn't you be happy? Wouldn't you be fulfilled? Wouldn't you say this is good enough? Let's stay here. The answer is absolutely no. For me, the answer was absolutely no. So I did end up deciding to leave that company, for very great reasons that aligns with who I am and my heart and my soul. So I will be sharing that story with you, and it's what kicked off my career switch from marketing to the tech space. Yep, I want to thank you again, and I will now end the live stream. Have a good day. Have a good weekend.